realized, or what I realized, is that you need a really clear definition of the features so that people really talk about the same first. And the second step is you have to prioritize them. And I think this is the tough part. It sounds maybe easy, but defining the scope of an MVP is a pain for both sides. I think Nenad and Laurent can describe more like the developer or product management side. But if you own the product or if you want to develop yourself, somewhere you have to draw a line. And this is it, or for me, it was always very hard to get rid of features for the first release. This is a tough process.
Maybe I can add to that. I think I actually agree with all the points. Just would maybe extend it that we should also consider the learnings from the prototype. Sometimes we are a bit biased. It's our baby, the MVP that we want to build, and we don't listen to the feedbacks that we get from the customers on the prototype or potential customers. But I would be careful there because prototype is still not a functional software, right? So actually you have to really try to filter the feedback in a way that if you get a couple of verifications for certain feedback, then you should consider it. If it's just one off, then probably you have to actually research more on that. So really consider the learnings from there. Then also we call that the discovery phase, which I would do after the prototype, which would really look at the goal out of there would really to get the clear scope of the MVP and with the backlog as well. And you should try to stick to it. We tend to actually extend the MVP scope quite easily. There is something that we call customer-driven development. And if you get the feedback from someone who is close to you, hey, this should be changed, you immediately jump and try to change the MVP scope, which then can go really for a long time. Like you can always add more things, and then your deadlines are always being moved. And then I would also consider having a really capable team that can carry out your MVP, because this is your business card to the outside world. This is your first contact with the customers where they really try the product, and it has to work. So yeah, and maybe also important part is the plan. This is more from the technical side, to plan the release properly. We tend to have deadlines, and there is the same internal and external deadline, but I would always make a separation there. So we have an internal deadline, and then maybe 3-4 weeks after that, the external one, so that we make sure that we actually fix all the problems that arise after the initial deadline. So yeah, that would be just additional few points.
Yeah, great. The only things that I can add is there's a trade-off. The longer you can go with your prototype or proof of concept before building the MVP, the more you will learn, and the more sure you are that what you're going to build next as an MVP is actually in line with the needs of your customer or customers. The downside of it is the longer you wait, the bigger your MVP will become, right? So because you then will add these and these and these features, and maybe you've already added them to the proof of concept, but you can now not undo that. So you have to build an MVP that is maybe bigger. Maybe you can take it out in the beginning. So there's a feature size and timeline trade-off that you have to be aware of. I advocate for waiting as long as you can, because the learnings you will be making on the prototype, as Nenad and Luis also said, will really translate into a better MVP. But you have to be aware that the longer you wait, the longer it will take you to build MVP, the more expensive it will be, and the harder the discussions will be to reduce the MVP size to go live at the beginning. So that's a bit of a trade-off.
Do you have any strategy that you would recommend for defining and building like a core flow of a project during this, transition phase? Is there anything you use, or do you have any strategies that you say, I always do it like this?
You mean for the transition from prototype to MVP?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is probably relatively difficult to define for everyone at once. But what I think helps a lot, obviously you will do user stories and you will have a backlog of them, etc. But I think what helps a lot to start from is the customer and internal employee journey, that you really map this on a sort of flow chart and you say, what are the 2, 3, 4 core flows that we need to be able to deliver a good experience on to the customer and to our employees internally, so that we can say this MVP works, right? And if you map that out properly, from there, it's visual, everyone can understand it, can challenge it, you see what you've been missing out on, and from there it's relatively straightforward to then come up with the tasks that you want to actually develop afterwards. It's not straightforward to define where it ends, you know, what is in the MVP and what is not, as Luis already said, but I think it's this visual documentation in the beginning is a super good help to really figure out what to do and what not to do. But maybe Luis, you also have different opinions.
It's a bit on a different topic here, but I think you also have to differentiate if you build an MVP for a product within your company, you know the audience very well, or if you build an MVP for the open market. I think people tend to ask the people they know that share the same opinion. So what I always tell people, if they have a new idea or a new product for the open market, talk to the people you think they don't like it. And this is also if you create an MVP, because if I just ask the friends, I know they will exactly want to have it like I do. I won't have a diversified opinion on an MVP. But in my case, I mean, we are building products IT-wise internally mostly. So we know the audience quite well. And then we take the approach Laurent mentioned, that we really have the stories ready and then we prioritize everything accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Maybe just to add one more aspect there is that I see quite often is in all the customer flows, usually we need to collect certain data from the customers. And actually many times it's sensitive data, like a phone number or address and stuff like that. And I believe that good strategy is really to have a low entry barriers, to split the questions that you ask the customer into few steps and try to, with every step, build more trust. So by the time you need to really ask for the sensitive information, customer has already given you a lot and actually trusts the platform more than at the beginning. That actually proved to be quite true in the past when we tested.